When he returned to his room that night, exhaustion crushed him more completely than before. His body felt hollowed out, as though the fever had burned away something essential. He lay down without undressing and stared at the dim ceiling until darkness swallowed the shapes entirely. Sleep came in fragments. He dreamed he was walking through the city, but the streets were empty, the buildings leaning inward as if listening. Every door he passed stood slightly ajar. From each one came a whisper, not words, but the soft sound of breathing. When he tried to turn back, the street stretched endlessly forward. His feet moved, yet he went nowhere. He woke with a cry lodged in his throat. Morning brought no relief. The air felt heavier than ever, the light more intrusive. His thoughts circled the same point relentlessly. How long can this last? Raskolnikov arrived again, cheerful, energetic, dragging with him the outside world. "You're better," he announced, ignoring the evidence. "You'll be on your feet in no time. I've brought soup. Eat." Raskolnikov obeyed mechanically. Each spoonful turned in his stomach. Razumikhin talked about work, about acquaintances, about plans for the future. He spoke of Dunya, whom he had met briefly, and his tone shifted, softened. "She's remarkable," he said, strong, clear-eyed. Raskolnikov felt a stab of something like jealousy, something like fear. "Don't," he said sharply. Razumikhin blinked. "Don't what?" "Don't talk about her." Razumikhin laughed it off, but studied him more closely after that. Something in Raskolnikov's tone had unsettled him. Later that day, Dunya herself arrived. She stood in the doorway, tall and composed, her expression firm but anxious. Their eyes met, and for a moment Raskolnikov felt as though she could see straight through him. "You look ill," she said quietly. "I am." She sat beside him, spoke gently, asked careful questions. He answered vaguely, unwilling or unable to explain anything. Her presence comforted him and tortured him at once. She was so real, so alive. He felt unworthy even to sit near her. She spoke of her engagement, of the difficult decision she had made for the sake of their mother. Raskolnikov listened, his mind roaring. "You sacrifice yourself," he thought bitterly. "And I destroy." When she left, promising to return, he felt both relief and despair. That evening, Porfiry summoned him. The message was polite, almost friendly. Raskolnikov read it twice, his hands trembling slightly, then folded it carefully and placed it on the table. So it continues, he thought. The office was warm and cluttered, filled with books and papers stacked carelessly. Porfiry greeted him with a smile that revealed nothing. Sit, he said. "You look better already." They spoke at first of trivial matters. Porfiry rambled, digressed, laughed at his own jokes. Raskolnikov listened, wary, feeling as though he were being drawn into a web woven of words. Then Porfiry leaned back and studied him openly. "Tell me," he said lightly, "do you believe in conscience?" The question struck like a blow. "Everyone does," Raskolnikov replied cautiously. Porfiry nodded. "Yes, even those who deny it, especially those." He spoke of criminals who confessed without evidence, driven by an unbearable inner pressure. He described the strange relief that came with admission of guilt. Raskolnikov felt his pulse racing. "You see," Porfiry continued, "the mind may invent theories, but the heart does not obey them." Raskolnikov forced a smile. "You speak like a philosopher." Porfiry's eyes gleamed. "Perhaps, or perhaps like someone who has watched many clever men destroy themselves." When Raskolnikov left, his legs felt weak. He walked through the streets in a daze, Porfiry's voice echoing in his head. That night, driven by an impulse he did not fully understand, he sought out Sonia. Her room was small and clean, almost bare. She greeted him with surprise, then concern when she saw his face. "You're suffering," she said simply. Something in her tone, free of judgment, free of curiosity, broke through his defenses. Words spilled out of him, tangled and desperate. He spoke of ideas, of pride, of isolation, of the unbearable weight pressing on him. Sonia listened, without interrupting. At last, His voice dropped to a whisper. I killed her. The words hung in the air, fragile and terrible. Sonia covered her face and wept, not in horror but in grief. When she looked up, her eyes were full of pain and compassion. What have you done to yourself? She said softly. He expected condemnation. He received sorrow. She took his hand. Her grip was gentle but firm. There is only one path left, she said. Confess, accept suffering, do not run from it. He pulled his hand away. You don't understand. I understand enough, she replied. You wanted to be above others, but you are like everyone else. That is not shame, that is salvation. He left her shaken, furious, and strangely comforted. Days passed. Pressure closed in from all sides. Porfiry's questions grew sharper. Dunya's presence weighed on him. Sonia's words followed him everywhere. Sleep abandoned him again. At last, one morning, he stood at the crossroads Sonia had described. People hurried past without noticing him. The city roared on. He knelt. He pressed his lips to the dirty ground. The act felt absurd, humiliating, and yet something loosened inside him. He rose and walked toward the police station. Inside, the air smelled of ink and sweat. A clerk looked up in irritation. Yes. Raskolnikov swallowed. I have come, he said slowly, to confess. When the words left his mouth, the world did not collapse. No thunder sounded. No great revelation occurred. But for the first time since the axe fell, he felt the crushing weight shift, only slightly, but enough to breathe. And he knew, with terrifying certainty, that this was not the end of his punishment. It was only its true beginning.